Cool. Are we live now or?
We are live now. We are definitely live.
Okay, cool. Let me get your links here.
All right, let me get them links for you.
All right, yeah, because I can share your Facebook, so I'll do that.
Cool. Let me go on YouTube. All right, people. I apologize for that mishap. I'm definitely gonna take a page and blame it on the COVID situation. I don't know how that's affecting us. I don't know. I haven't got all the information. I don't know how the government's handle it right now, but we're definitely on top of things. We was able to fix it, and I appreciate everybody staying with us on that. So we're definitely on top of things now.
Yep. We just gotta share these links through all the different resources here, and then
we're gonna share it live as we're talking to you guys. That's how business minded we are. So we're sharing links as we're talking. Just you guys get a full behind the scenes, because you know this channel is all dedicated but behind the scenes type stuff, and we're gonna give you a full dedicated behind the scenes channel. So I'm getting everybody links. So just stay with us. We have some great content. I got Mr. Winbush. It took me a while. You know, I had to go through some hoops just to get a high caliber like this, but I did it. I told you guys I was gonna get the best, and I'm bringing you guys the best. So, I mean, that's what I'm doing for you guys. So just stick with us. This is gonna be You know what it is? I know what it is. You know what it is?
all right. So this YouTube link you sent me, this is the one to share, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Just for everybody in the background, you know what it was? I was monitoring it on all my on my audio thing, and it was feeding back into the loop. So I was watching it, and it was feeding back into the loop. So that's what the issue was. So we're definitely gonna we definitely got that knocked out for you guys.
All right. Yeah, I'm good on my end. Whenever you're ready to go.
All right, let's get into it. Let's definitely get into it.
All right. Can everybody let us know how the audio is out there?
Is there any audio issues, people? Just let us know. I will troubleshoot that ASAP.
All right. Cool. Yeah, it looks like I got everything shared out.
Awesome.
Cool. All right.
Okay, great. So let's get into it. That kind of threw me for a loop, but let's get into it, Miss. First of all, let me just say thank you, and I appreciate you. You know, driving the show, first episode, all the jitters, all mistakes. You came in, you made it. You a trooper, and I really appreciate that. So I would introduce you, but I feel like I wouldn't do it as much justice. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and just start with the general stuff, like how you got started.
All right, so you want me to get right into it?
Yeah,
or?
I just want to know your back. Just carry me all the way through until like what? I guess the better question is, what? How do you define yourself as? Because I'm looking, I've seen you on social media. I see you do. It's so many avenues that you do that I don't want to put you in one lane. So I would say, I guess the first question is, what category will you put yourself in?
Well, my background and my bread and butter is motion graphics. Even though I know, like nowadays, that's kind of like a generic term. Like like you said, you look at my social media, I'm doing all types of things, like getting into virtual production. I've done virtual reality, basically anything with a screen on it. I'm just like designing and animating for it. So, like my basis comes from background in Cinema 4D and After Effects and the entire Adobe suite, but yeah, that's where everything stems from. So anything that I'm getting into, I always have that root built in motion graphics, and I just kind of stem my skill set from there.
Awesome. So my question is this: the VR aspect, because I know I've been following your tutorials on using Unreal, and it's been like a lifesaver. It's just been like that's my go-to bookmark page. So
Right.
I'm sure I'm not the only one. Everybody's like, yo, you got questions on Unreal? Winbush, that's your guy. Just Google Winbush, you get there. So
I appreciate it.
my question: how did you transition from motion graphics? And to me, it feels like, because I have a background in motion graphics, it feels like it's a different kind of field until when you get into Unreal, the whole
Yeah.
interface is a little different. So how did you make that transition, and why did you make that transition?
I'd say the main reason is because like I got multiple machines here. And so like I first started with GPU rendering with Octane, and then I moved over to Redshift. And like anytime I have to render out a big project, I have like this mini, excuse me, I have this mini render farm here. And so I just gotta like turn up all my computers on my laptops and just start running it. And my electric bill gets like crazy high every single month. And
Right.
so once I saw people rendering out like photoreal stuff out of Unreal Engine, and it's only using one GPU, like I first got started looking at the Quixel stuff, and they put out something at I want to say GDC last year,
Right.
and it looked photoreal and it looked crazy. And they're like, we just did this on one 2080, not even a 2080 Ti. It
Wow.
was just a 2080 card. And so that's really what piqued my interest. And then when I was at SIGGRAPH last year, they did the announcement that Maxon is they were integrating Cinema 4D with Unreal.
Wow.
And so at that point, I felt comfortable enough to jump into Unreal because it's like, okay, I have my base set. It's Cinema 4D, so I know I can at least start creating my stuff in Cinema,
Mm.
and then I just had to figure out how to transfer it to Unreal from there. And it's just like at first the interface was daunting. Like I've tried for years to try to jump into Unreal,
Right.
but the best way I found that I was really getting into it was okay, like I saw the Quixel stuff. That gave me a roadmap, like, okay, this is the type of stuff I want to create. So I just started like figuring it out until I was able to, start making my own projects and trying to, I'm not quite on that level yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just working my skill sets until I could get there. So that's been really my driving force is just like seeing a project and trying to break it down. Like I guess you could say like just look at the roadmap of what
Right.
they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of follow what they're doing there, and then after it, like I say you've been working in Unreal as well, so it's like once you're in there it kind of gets addicting. Like once you start figuring stuff out, it's just fun. It's like Legos, you just start piecing everything together, and since everything's in real time, it's like you don't have to worry about rendering. You have
Mm-hmm.
more time just to be creative.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So here's my question. This is maybe I know. Let me just ask it. Let me not preface it. You have a lot of people getting into real time. To me, Unreal is the king of real time, right? But you
Yeah.
have somebody like Octane, right, with Project Embry, right? Then you have like Project Lavina from Chaos Group. Then you have
Yeah.
Redshift, Redshift RT or RT Redshift. So you have major players from the traditional rendering side stepping into it, and it feels like there's a movement, right? Like, say if you
Right.
had to put Unreal aside, because Unreal is just, to me, Unreal is such a tool for doing VR, for doing real time rendering, and for making video games. It's such a universal tool that it's in its own category. But if you had to
Right.
say, based on the big three, right? There's Chaos Group, Atoy, and Redshift, with their three new rendering, I guess their three new real time rendering platforms. How do you feel that will change the industry? Do you think we're gonna shift to real time? Is that like the final destination, which is gonna be real time, or do you think it's always gonna be a place for tech, just straight CPU rendering?
I think eventually everybody wants to get to real time, yeah, because then you're not worrying about like I know I've rendered overnight plenty of times, and then you wake up in the morning, check out your render, and there is a glitch somewhere or something just didn't it didn't happen right. So if you're working real time or close to real time, then it's like you're getting your results instantly, and then that way you could troubleshoot as stuff is starting to come up. So I think that's like the holy grail that everybody's just trying to chase, just being able to work faster so that you can work more efficient. And so like during this past Max on stream they showed the real time redshift stuff, which it looks promising. It's not exactly 100% real time from what I could tell, but it's faster than what they have now. But then the stuff that I've seen Jules putting out with Octane,
Mm-hmm.
with I think is it Brigade, I think they're calling it.
I think
But
Obtain Embry or no Brigade. One of those. Don't quote me.
yeah, but yeah, I saw some of the stuff he was putting out, and that looked really, really good. And so I'm not really sure like I don't know, like trying to follow everything, I just start getting confused. That's why I just kind of stuck to my own lane, you know. But yeah, I mean, the other stuff is looking promising. But like you said, with Unreal, it's not just about rendering. Like you can make, like say you have your project then. So
Right.
like we'll just say like I do stuff for like Hasbro. So like say like Transformers is one of the properties that I work on.
Uh-huh.
And so say that I come out with a project like just like a motion graphics commercial for Transformers, whatever new series they have coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I can then go to them and say like, hey, I built this out in Unreal Engine. I could take these same exact assets and make it into like an interactive experience, or maybe
Wow.
just like a little video game if you just
That's
want to put
true.
something out there, or make it into a VR experience. It's like the assets are there. And so from there, it's just exporting it out to the different applications with a little bit of work. So that's the advantage that they have that the other platforms really don't have right now. It's just you have a whole plethora of different avenues that you can start building revenue on top of the project that you originally did.
Wow. That's something I didn't even notice. I didn't think about,
Yeah,
you know, I didn't think about that once you build something out that you can take it and it can keep living. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It can
yeah.
live on multiple things and stuff like that. I didn't even think about that. That's very key. That's very key. Okay, let's go to the I wouldn't call it old school, but the you take a look at Blender, right? You take a look at
Yeah.
Urender, right? On those two, right? To me, those were like the first time I ever really messed with like real time rendering. That's the first time I had an opportunity to really, uh, uh, uh get with it, get to feel it, and it's
Right.
you're right. It's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer, right? Um,
Yeah.
but let me ask you this: with the experience, I'm used to like TV experience. How do you feel like the next experience would be? Like, do you think VR is the future? Like, we're just gonna plug in into the internet, or do you feel like traditional flat screen TV is gonna be our experience? Or do you think we're going there with AR and VR? Is that a real thing, or just the flavor of the month?
It's tough to tell because like I was doing VR back in like 2015, 2016, and it seemed like that's the way that everything was moving. Like everybody was really excited about VR. And then for whatever reason, I guess it just wasn't expanding fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like, well, at least here in the States, it kind of fell flat. I know like it's still kind of thriving over in like China and South Korea and Japan, a lot of those Asian countries, and some down in South America as well. They have a lot of VR arcades down there.
Mm,
But I feel like for the most part, it just seems like everybody just kind of fell off that train.
mm,
And I know talking to like a lot of immersive companies, they're like, maybe we're just going to try to focus on AR.
mm.
Like I know I listened to a talk that one of the brass people at Netflix did, and they were saying they were totally shifting over to AR and trying to figure out how to use
Wow.
that platform. Like they weren't even, I guess they put out a few VR experiences that didn't really hit,
Mm-hmm.
even though the experiences weren't, looked like it was just piecemeal together. But
Right.
they were like, it didn't hit, so they're not going to use any more resources towards that. They're more interested in AR because everybody has a cell phone at this point.
Right.
Like, everybody that has a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, everybody has an AR device and it's easier to promote your stuff on that platform.
Mm.
So I know when people like it's in the professional business, when they speak about AR, they're not even worried about like the glasses or anything at this point. They're all focused on like the mobile devices.
Hmm.
And so, but that stuff is still premature as well. I think we're like a really ways off before that starts taking over anything. So as of now, I still think like, your traditional television is still king.
Right. Okay. Because I've seen, I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen the emergence of just a little kickstand here. I feel like we seen the internet came out. We're relatively same age. We
Yeah.
seen the internet come out, right? We remember the time before the internet, right? So the
Yeah. Yeah.
internet comes out, right? It's dial up, it's slow. People are not really getting it. AOL hits. The social net to me, AOL is like one of the first social networks. So it hits,
Yeah. Definitely.
and then all of a sudden, which was I didn't see coming. To be honest with you, the internet goes mobile, right? So the internet is
Yeah.
something you can put in your pocket. It shifts, right? Then TV becomes static, and then the internet jumps back onto TV, right? So now everybody's smart TV just not there's nothing but a dummy iPad. So we've seen this shift, like just going from. I feel like the internet is just jumping from here to there. So
Right.
I guess, how do you feel about Oculus Rift? How do you feel about that? Uh, uh, um, because at my last studio, I was working at NBA on an NBA channel, and there was a big people, the guys were geeked over it. And I was like, I don't know, yada yada yada, but the guys were geeked about it. So have you messed with
Yeah,
Oculus Rift? And I think the I forget the other name of it, but have you really tried those VR headsets out and gave it a
yeah.
gander?
I've had all of them since 2015.
Oh wow.
Well, I guess you can't say up on my case, but I got a Quest right up there on top of my trophy case.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I was there from, I don't want to say from the start. Like I jumped in around the DK2 whenever
Mm-hmm.
that was in beta. I have one of those in my garage, but yeah, it's I mean, I like VR and I was passionate about it. I know whenever my friend worked at Oculus, they were down here not too far from me in Irvine before they
Mm-hmm.
got bought out by Facebook.
Mm.
So I used to have access to that facility. My friend would let my son and I come over, try out some of the prototypes and stuff like that.
Oh
And
wow.
that's what really got me hooked. And
That's cool.
so like back then they thought VR was only going to be for video games. They
Mm.
didn't even think about like 360 experiences and stuff like
Mm.
that. And so that's how I got into it because I kind of took it as a challenge. Like I'm not a game creator, but I am a visual creator.
Mm.
So I started doing music videos in VR and they got real popular, especially like out in Asia and stuff like that. And then yeah, so I know that there's still some hype for it, and I've seen the NBA games in VR, and I can
Oh wow.
see where there's a lot of potential for it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I still use mine to work out, like I do the boxing VR and stuff
Wait,
like
wait, wait,
that.
wait, wait. I'm still in 2020. You're in 2040. You said you use your headset to work out. Like explain that experience to me, because I see you muscled up. You like you hit the gym. I need to. Maybe that's the reason why I haven't gone to the gym, because it hasn't been at my house. So can you explain that experience? How do you do that? How's that? How's that happen?
Yeah, so mostly using it for cardio, especially since the lockdown put on a lot of weight during this lockdown. During this lockdown, since I can't go to the gym, but there's a couple of exercise and applications on there. I
Hmm.
like boxing. Like when I used to go to the gym, I used
Right,
to end every weight session with some boxing sparring, whether it was with people at the gym or just hitting the heavy bag.
right,
And so since I can't do that now, there's a few games on there. Like one is I can't think of the name of it, but it's kind of like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but
right.
in VR.
Mm.
And then that's like a game, but then there's workout games like there's Box VR, which is kind of like Lightsaber, right?
I've seen
The
that
game
one. I've
Lightsaber.
seen the game. Yep, I've seen that one.
Okay, so it's like lightsaber, but think of it as unboxing. So
Mm.
you have these objects coming towards you, and you have to hit them with the right color combination. You have to duck and weave and do all
Hmm.
types of things. And then, like whenever you're selecting your level, there's
Right.
actually a trainer that you select. Like, okay, I want to use this trainer
Hmm.
for 15 minutes at this type of heart rate, and then it tracks you as you go through and everything. And
Wow.
you definitely get like a killer workout, especially once
Hmm.
you start raising the minutes up like 15, 20 minutes.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm. You just sold me. I don't know if that was a pitch, but I'm getting the headset, so I'm gonna go in there and get my cardio, like what you said. So you made an interesting topic, like with the COVID situation, right? We all had to adjust in one way or another, right? A lot of my jobs were
Right.
work from home jobs, and I still had to adjust. How did that COVID situation, the good, the bad, the ugly, how did it affect you?
Um, I mean, I was in the same situation. Like I have my own business, so I do everything remote. So I wasn't going to a studio or any type of shop to begin with. But the way that it really affected me was once, like, because at first everybody thought this was only going to be like 3 weeks and then 6 weeks. Like people didn't think it was going to last this long. So a lot of projects just got put on hold.
Mm,
And then as we started getting into the summer, like I know a lot of studios were ready to open up like mid July,
mm,
and then they closed down California again. And so I know a lot of projects that I'm on, they're kind of like on hold indefinitely. Like they're not going away, but they can't shoot anything right now. And therefore, I don't have any footage to work with or anything of
mm,
that nature.
mm.
So a lot of projects are on hold. The biggest kicker was Fast and the Furious 9. Like I met with the team. My boy Dave brought me in, met with the directors and everything. I was going to start doing some like GUI design for
Mm-hmm.
some of their stuff on Fast and Furious 9.
Right.
The very next day, COVID hits. Everybody at Universal had to go back to the respective countries.
Mm.
They put the whole film on hold until 2021.
Wow.
So it's like I didn't even get to start on it. Like I was all geeked, posted stuff on Facebook, like, yeah, I'm working on
Oh,
Fast 9. And then it just got pulled out from under me. So they closed down early because they didn't want to open without China because
Mm,
China was already on lockdown before it.
that makes
And I
sense.
think they wanted the premiere out there because Fast does really good numbers out there.
Mm,
And so without the Chinese market and their theaters being closed, they're like, we're just gonna, we're going to postpone it until the stock market opens up.
mm.
So that was one of the biggest kickers. But I'm still working. I still got steady work. It's just I'm not as busy as I usually am.
Right, right. I've noticed the same thing as well. Like I was lining up for opportunity, and I mean, we were pushing back week to week, and I was just like, guys, I know we were supposed to be in studio work, but I don't feel comfortable going to the studio, and because you guys, it's like 30 guys, it was like a micro studio, but they were doing
Right.
some really big name work. I can't really mention it, but I was like, nah, I'm a hard pass on that one. I'm a hard pass on that one. So that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Um, so let me ask you this: What? Let me just. Are you a PC or a Mac guy?
PC since I've been
PC.
born.
You
Yeah.
oh, so you okay? You've always been PC.
Yeah. Like it's funny because I never even I guess in elementary school, the school I went to,
Uh
we
huh.
had those old school Macintoshes. They had
Right.
like Oregon Trail and Carmen San Diego and stuff,
Ooh,
and
classics.
McAfee learned how to type those type of things.
Uh
But
huh.
besides that, I never touched the Apple machine until I moved out west because I'm originally from Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. So back there, everything was PC. So like my first PC was the Tandy 1000, with the big floppy disk
I know
that
what you're talking
whenever
about.
you had a video game, you had like 15 floppy disk, and every time you went to like a different area, you had to switch out the floppy disk and things of that nature.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, so I've just always been PC from that point
uh
on.
huh.
And yeah, I learned how to build my own PCs. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool whenever I was young. So up until recently, I've just always put together my own PCs. And I know you really couldn't do that with Apple. So they just never really appealed to me in that manner.
Okay. Since you're a PC guy, is it safe to assume you're Android over the
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you PC. So you straight. I wouldn't say anti-Apple, but you're on the other side. You Android and PC. Are you last? So your
Yep.
laptop or desktop?
I have both. I have a
Okay.
couple of desktops and a couple of laptops, but my main workstation is desktop.
Mm-hmm. So
But I do have an iPad here though, because I
okay,
needed it for some AR stuff. So
okay. So
yeah.
how many? Let's get to how many tools do you use on your like? How many tools are you comfortable with? Right. So I'm gonna go out and throw some. I'm gonna say Unreal. I'm gonna
Yep.
say Cinema 4D. I'm gonna say
Yep.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Premiere Pro.
Black Magic is off. I switched.
Blackmagic.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So I wasn't even okay. That's DaVinci Suite. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
After Effects. I'm gonna
Yep.
say Photoshop. Did I say Photoshop? Let's say it again.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Substance Painter.
um, I used to years ago
Mm-hmm.
before they got bought out by
Right.
Adobe. I was just learning it, but then
Mm-hmm.
once they went subscription, I kind of just, I have my license, but I just kind
Right.
of fell off. But then got into the stuff that Quixel was doing, especially since it's all free.
Right.
So I made the jump over to Mixer. Been using that ever since.
I didn't even think of Mixer. So
Yeah.
those are a lot of programs. So how in these programs, as we know, they stay updated. Sometimes it feels like monthly, especially Blender, right? So
Yeah.
how do you stay? Do you because you definitely stay on the cutting edge because I see YouTube's like updated daily. So how do you stay on the cutting edge? What is your number one source for like finding out a new update comes and be able to not only find out the update comes, be able to understand it, analyze it, and be able to communicate it to somebody just jumping in? Because the way you communicate it is pretty cool because it's not like overly complicated. So if anybody just jumping in as a beginner, they can get it, and anybody's jumping as a veteran, they can get it for the new feature. So how first two questions: how do you get your information, and what I guess how do you model your teaching style out when it comes to your YouTube videos?
Yeah. So the first question about how do I keep up to date? I mean,
Yes.
mostly just whenever I open up the application, there's an update. So like I'm trying to keep my tool sets really close. Like I know there's so many tools out there, you
Mhm.
can't really learn them all. And so like I'm on Discord and it seems like a lot of stuff nowadays just comes to me. Like a lot of people will hit me up like,
Mm.
hey, did you see the update on Embergen or did you see the update on World Creator? And I talk to a lot of the developers now too. I have some relationship with some of the developers. It's so it seems like the information is just coming to me a lot of the times, but like you said, like before I started really doing YouTube, I just used to always speak to different artists, or
Mm,
I just hover around the Facebook groups or the different forums, and if I see something that looks cool, then I'll hit the person up like, hey, what'd you use to make that? And they'll say like, oh, I used Blender, or I use World Creator. Then I'll look it up, and
mm,
if it's something that I can use in my tool set, then I immediately download the trial version.
mm,
If I like it, then try to use it in a project so that it will pay for itself. And then as to the YouTube stuff, honestly, like I used to do a lot of screen capturing because it's hard to remember, especially with all these different programs out there. Like once you figure something out, if you're not always doing it,
right.
it's always hard to remember how to do it. So it's like I would spend like a week trying to figure something out, finally get it, and then 6 months later that problem would come back up, and then it's like I totally forgot how to do it. And so I would just start, screen recording my sessions, and that way I had an archive of how I did it. And then I would have friends hit me up like, hey, do you happen to know how to do this, this, and this? And then I would just send them the videos like, oh
Wow.
yeah, I figured that out 3 months ago. Here's my, my screen capture recording. And somebody's like, why don't you start putting this stuff up on YouTube? You have like a whole library.
Mm,
And so I wasn't really comfortable in front of the camera back then. Like if you look at my real early stuff, it's like really, really awkward. Like
okay.
I'm an introvert through and through. So it just at first I put some stuff up. I wasn't even on camera.
Right.
And then I was like, I need to start building a brand out. We talked about it a little bit yesterday about how a lot of times it's not about your resume anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your presence in the
Right.
industry. And so I started forcing myself to get more comfortable on camera,
Right.
put myself out there. And then I just got a really good response from it. And so just that helped me become more comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
keep trying to put the weekly content out there. And the cool thing is like a lot of this stuff is as I'm learning it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I figured this out. So let me put out a tutorial on it. And so
Makes
that I think that's where my teaching style comes from, because it's like I'm learning along with everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like I'm a veteran coming in, like, I've been using this for 20 years. And like I watch some YouTubers, it's like they're using shortcuts and
Mm-hmm.
they're jumping all over the place. And me watching it, I'm like, yo,
Oh
like
yeah.
what are you doing here? Like I'm trying to slow it down, and
Been there.
these
Been there.
people are just flying through it. So yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it from a beginner aspect because I'm just learning this stuff too, like
Mm-hmm.
Unreal and stuff like that. So I try to take it as slow as possible because even I go back and watch my own tutorials as
Right.
well. So it's just it wasn't on purpose. It's just the way, I guess I'm teaching because I'm learning especially the Unreal stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. But you touched on one key thing. Um, it seems like there's a lot, right? There's a lot of programs, a lot of updates, and there's a lot of client, and you run your own business as well. You're juggling a lot of balls, so to say, right? Just from the outside looking in, I don't
Right.
even know what other balls you're juggling. So, what do you do on your downtime? How do you just kind of like relax, kind of chill out? What is your plan?
A lot of funny as it is, every morning I do the dishes just to kind of clear my mind from everything. So I do the dishes while watching anime on like
Mm-hmm.
Crunchyroll or Netflix or something,
Right.
just to get started with the day. Do a lot of hiking. Um, at nighttime, playing a lot of Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to mellow out. But yeah, I mean, it gets tough. There's not enough hours in a day to do everything. So it's I've been trying to find a balance. Like the weekends, I don't know if you noticed lately, like I do just these really big like 10-mile hikes
Oh yeah, I seen
recently,
that.
just trying to get out in nature away from all the technology, just trying to let my hair clear out
Right.
and just give myself some me time, like just trying to get back out in nature and just kind of rejuvenate. Because yeah, this trying to stay ahead of all this stuff could kind of make you go stir crazy. So
Yeah.
definitely, I definitely embrace being outdoors a lot more these days.
Awesome. Awesome. But that's very very interesting. Let me ask you this, because I know working in the creative field, there's a lot of introverts, right? And you make this transition from being an introvert to just jump in front of the camera and just start interviews and content and tutorials. For other introverts, I consider myself somewhat of an introvert, but for other introverts
Yeah.
out there, how do you overcome that hurdle of being like behind? Because you just sometimes you can just be behind the laptop, and if you position it right, you don't have to go into any studio. So how did you?
Right.
Because it's a sticker show. How did you jump that hurdle? I would ask.
Are you speaking as into
As in,
just like going out there getting work or like the YouTube stuff?
as from a from a mental aspect, right? From being an introvert to putting out there and being in a very uncomfortable environment where you have to talk to people, got to engage. Because I know it's been in the creative field. I would say there's a high number of introverts who feel a lot
Yeah.
comfortable just doing what they want to do behind the camera and behind the software and just submitting their work, right? Not feeling
Right.
comfortable enough to get in front of everybody and to articulate themselves and to pitch themselves. The interview's one step, but your portfolio can kind of get you past the interview, right? But
Right.
how do you transition to be like? How did you take that step from being an introvert to being, I won't say extrovert, but allowing your character to shine through?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is definitely a lot of mental warfare there. Like my kids are introverts as well. I'm trying to get, I'm trying to show them the steps that I've been taking these past few years to just get comfortable and get yourself more out there. Just because, like, I've been doing this since 2006.
Mm,
And so, like, I've worked on some really high profile movies and TV shows. And so, for the longest time, I was able just to kind of piggyback off the work that I've done.
mm,
But over the time of social media and, just people putting their presence out there online, your portfolio, I don't want to say matters less and less, but it's more like people that build themselves into a brand. It seems like those are the people that are starting to get recognized more.
mm,
And so I took that and I was like, okay, I need to start putting myself out there because people don't know who I am. They might know the work, but nobody knew who I was. Like when I started really putting myself out there, a lot of people thought I was brand new. They're
mm.
like, oh man, we're glad to see somebody like you out there, especially like a lot of artists of color. They've been
Right.
hitting me up like, we're glad to see that somebody new and fresh is coming out. And it's like, well, I've been in the industry for over 10 years. It's like, I'm not exactly new to this. I've
Right.
been doing this since 05, 06, working in Hollywood, but it just, that kind of hit me because it's like, I've been doing this for so long and no one still knows who I am. So I kind of just, I was doing conferences. Like that's the big thing. Like if you could get maybe at like Adobe Max or SIGGRAPH or NAB, if you
Mm-hmm.
get hit up like a vendor and even just speak at their booth. Like I started off working with I don't know if you're familiar with Metal, the company them used
Oh,
to make
the
the
plugins for After
VR.
Effects.
Yeah, yeah. And so when I started getting into VR, I sent my stuff over to them after I did my first VR project and they liked it. And then they were like, would you be interested in speaking at our booth at Adobe Max? This was like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I never did anything like that. But I'm like, I can't let these opportunities pass me up just
Mm.
because I'm shy or an introvert.
No.
And so I went out there. Um, yeah, that was an experience in itself, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And
Right.
it was kind of fun. And so once I got over my demons there, I was like, okay, I want to start doing this more. And the booth that was across from it all was AMD.
Mm.
And the guy over there, Richard, he noticed me over there when I was doing my talks. And so he was like, hey, when you're done working with metal, would you want to come over and just present at our booth because we don't have no presenters going on. So I was like, sure. I jumped over to AMD booth, was able to bring a couple of people over there when I was doing presentations.
Mm.
And then my reputation as a presenter at conferences started just getting out there more and more.
Wow.
And then I think that helped out a lot, just being able to speak with people, but I was still camera shy. And so just forcing myself to get a camera and put myself out there on YouTube and realizing it's not that bad. Like, of course, you're going to have people trolling you, but the thing about YouTube is you control your own platform. So, like, if I see a comment that I don't like, I just delete it. Like,
There
I
you
don't
go.
even, yeah, I don't talk to them. I don't engage them or anything. I just delete it. And I know people are like, oh, you should leave the comments up there for engagement, but I'm just like, I'm trying to put out positivity in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so if something's up there that's not up to par, I'm just going to delete it and keep doing my thing and keep pushing through, especially because I think it's important for artists of color just to really be out there more and more. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, when I was coming up, a lot of studios, I was the only Black artist there. Like,
Mm.
it was just me in a sea full of, you know, I want to say white artists and a lot of Asian artists.
Mm.
A lot of times I would be the only Black person there. And these are at major studios, like Happy Madison and Sony
Mm.
and Warner Brothers. Like I was the only representation there. So I'm glad to put it on my back and get more people engaged
Mm-hmm.
just so more people see like, hey, there's people like me and you out there in the industry and we could do this as well.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's a driving force as well. Just giving us representation in the
Mm-hmm.
field just so people get inspired.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, yeah, like
Yes.
just touching what you said. Yeah, I've definitely, you studios are, it's not many you know, people of color. I think that's the term people using now, whatever works. But it's not many different people there, so it definitely, when you go in the studio, to you know, to you know, representation is very, very important, very important. So let me ask
Right.
you this: with all these skill sets and all these things you've done, what is the future of Winbush? Right? Is it studio? Is it films? Is it animation? Is it VR, AR? I mean, you have a lot of roads you can go down. Is it everything? What is the future of Winbush?
Yeah. Still steadily trying to make the Wimbush brand a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hoping that, making the Wimbush brand something that's more engaging that other bigger studios see. Like, it's cool doing work through like agencies and these shops and things, but I want to catch the eyes of, like the Sony Pictures and the Warner Brothers. Like, I want them to come to me like, hey, like Spider-Verse 2 is something that I really want to work on. And
Okay.
so, like, I don't want to just do it through another shop. Like, I want them to actually hit me up, like, hey, there's an opportunity here. Would you be interested as coming on as your own entity and working
Okay.
on something like that? So, I'm just trying to build my brand up high enough to where these larger entities start taking me more serious. But, I'll do any type of work that comes through.
Right.
Like you said, the VR, the motion graphics, all that stuff. That's the way I make my money today. But yeah, definitely building out the Wimbush brand is where I'm really trying to take this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question. I know you're so far along in your career, and what advice would you give to someone just starting off? I'm gonna hit you with like a barrage of questions. So the first question is, what software would you tell them to first? The first tool, they don't. There's no photos. They have no background knowledge. We say, okay, I need to start with one tool. What tool would you recommend them to start with? If they want to be a motion graphic artist.
Yeah, I mean, I just dealt with this with my son.
Mm-hmm.
He just graduated high school, but I a couple of years ago he was interested in motion graphics, so I started him off in Photoshop just
Okay.
so he could start learning the basics, like
Mm-hmm.
with the masking and the composition and things
Mm-hmm.
of that nature. Because then it's an easy transition into After Effects.
There you
And
go.
so starting off with 2D, you could take your PSD files, bring them into After Effects, and you can start manipulating those layers in After
Mm-hmm.
Effects. And then once you get comfortable with keyframing and timing and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
then like right now he's in Cinema 4D. He's actually taking EJ's bootcamp class
Mm.
over at School of Motion. And so, that's the next logical thing because Cinema 4D integrates really well into After Effects. And so I would just say, start with the Adobe suite. And then once you find the need to start incorporating 3D, jump into Cinema or even Blender. Blender's free. I'm not really familiar with Blender, but for the price of free, it's worth checking out. So I would
Good
definitely
deal.
say start with those foundations there.
Okay. Second question. They did what you just said. They got a nice little portfolio. Ready? They want to get work and clients. How would you tell them to go about doing this?
Yeah, this is the tough one because this is 2020. So it's like it's totally different from when I was doing it. Like when I had my demo reel portfolio,
Right.
I had to burn DVDs and
Woo.
physically mail them out in the mail. So it's like it's definitely a different era now. I noticed that like a lot of people have their portfolio up on Instagram and they're just uploading like dailies and things of that nature. So I definitely think that nowadays you definitely need to have like an online presence. And then if you're just starting out, like I started off as an intern,
Mm-hmm.
I still think that's really valuable. Excuse me, sorry, allergies. But yeah, no, I still think it's really valuable to kind of get into a studio at like a junior level or intern level and kind of just navigate around and learn how like different studios operate.
Mm.
And then once you get like a nice portfolio at like a studio, and then you can start really putting yourself out there once you have like some real name content under your belt. But I would definitely say, like, I still believe in a traditional route of interning or starting off as a junior artist somewhere.
Oh wow. That's. I mean, that's. I would. That's great information because a lot of times people want to jump in and you might have the technical skills to do everything, but you don't know the workflow. You know what I mean? Like when you jump in
Yeah.
the studio, I know me first. When I first came into the studio, I thought jumping in the studio, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do what I do at home. I was like, no, bro, you're just gonna do one part of it. We don't need you to do everything. Like I can do this, I can do that. Like, nah,
Yeah.
man, you just all you're gonna do is key. Like with my first year job, I just keyed all day. Just all I do was keying, just keying.
Yeah.
Then from that, it was like, hey, you want to do some compositing? I was like, anything but keying. I jumped to do some compositing, right? And I would key for
Yeah.
like, I think I keyed for like 2 years, just keying, just any footage. I would key off a green screen. It would be blue screen. It would be yellow. It would be just rotoscoping. It was just anything removing objects. So
Yeah.
that was something I did. So we have a question from Mr. Chemistry. What kind of software can you use or recommend for graphic novels for people who do not draw?
Huh. So are you talking about traditional graphic novels? Like you want to make like a comic book type graphic novel, or is it animation?
Let's do both approach. Let's say traditional graphic novels, straight print, and then let's move from that to digital graphic novels.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't draw. I would say so. You're going to definitely need a basis in character creation, in
Mm-hmm.
which like character creator is a really good platform for being able to like start with a base character, and then you just manipulate your character from there. I think you've used it before, right?
Well,
The
the
character creator by Real
oh,
Illusion.
hey, that's a whole. Let me just kickstand this. So Career Illusion, right? Because I'm doing animation and a little background. I'm doing animation, and I have a background in film and animation, right? Well, really, I'm a motion graphic artist. Well, let me give my quick bio. So I started off doing, like I'm gonna date myself, but I started off doing graphic design for MySpace. I don't know if you remember MySpace. It was big in my
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
So I started doing MySpace in high school, and I would do it for a couple of friends. And then I got a call from a record label, and I forget, it was like some premier record label. And they called me. He's like, "Hey man, we want you to do something." I was like, "Ah man, y'all playing? Stop playing my phone." So they was like, "No, we were serious." So they called me, and it was serious. And I was like, "Oh my god!" So I started doing graphic design for record labels. And then from that, I started shooting videos. And they was like, "Do you do music videos?" I was like, "Yeah, I do music videos." Never did a music video. I was like, yeah. So I did my first
yeah,
one. I had like, it was terrible, but it looked good at the end of it. So they started seeing music videos. And from that, I wanted to step up my music videos. So I said, look, I had the graphic, like you said, I had the Photoshop background. I said, you know what? I'm gonna incorporate After Effects. So jumping in After Effects, this was before YouTube was really strong. So shout out
yeah,
to Andrew Kramer, because Andrew Kramer was just like dropping a plethora of After Effects tutorial, and it got me tons of gigs. So I started doing that, incorporating that. From that, I went into 3D with Cinema 4D, and it was like, oh snaps, the 3D application and then Cinema 4D and After Effects started working together. And then it was, then Unreal, and then it's just all these other programs just start piling on. But I think what you talked about, the principal knowledge of learning Photoshop and understanding how Photoshop works, and then taking that
yeah,
knowledge and you can sprinkle it through a lot of things. You know what I mean? So using
yeah,
Character Creator, with Real Illusion, that was the ability. It took me, and I'm gonna do a video about it, but it took me from I want to do animation to I can do animation, right? So I got Character Creator, I got a motion capture shoot, I was doing tests and stuff like that. It's a beautiful tool, right? So, and it just got a premier upgrade. So they're doing great things over there. I'm in their forums, and they're just constantly updating. They're listening to you and all that stuff. So it's awesome. So, but to swing back to the next question, so you say on the digital end and the print end, which one would you recommend to from this day? Would you think that the print has a different feel, that you can touch the graphic novel, or would you say nah, go digital because you can reach more people for a lower budget?
yeah. If you're self-funding it, digital, but I think there's good outlets out there too. Like you can self-publish yourself through Amazon and things of that nature. Like you don't even need a publisher these days. So I would definitely say digital, but I still like print. Like if I have an opportunity to do anything in print, I always jump on that
Mm-hmm.
because I just love having that tangible item in your hand and you can show it to people like, hey, look what I'm in or look what I'm a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just, budget wise, I think digital is where it's at. Like you said, there's a whole bunch of different platforms. You could reach more people. But once you build that fan base, there's no reason why you can't do like a limited edition print volume or something of that nature and
Right.
give it out to like your super fans.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So shoot. Um, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time. I apologize for the audio issues. We was able to troubleshoot that. But definitely I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up the conversation. I'm hoping that we can do this again. Maybe it'll be hopefully a lot smoother. I think I wanna I'm gonna put you on live. Like I would love to, given the opportunity, An update comes out, you know, I let get Winbush some time to digest it, and then we just kind of talk through it and what does it mean? Because when a major update hits, my question is, I want to go to the pros and say, Winbush, what does it mean to does it change? Because I know a lot of people jump on the hype. It changes everything, but does it change
Yeah.
everything? You know what I mean? Here's a question: Unreal 5. I know you've seen the
Yeah.
trailer, right? I know you've seen the graphics and the fact that I was in the forums. Everybody's like, it changes everything. Everything
Yeah.
is done now. So my question is, I mean, with the poly count, I'm like, wow. Well, I guess I don't have to learn how to do that no more. Does it? Does technology like this? Does it change everything? Is it like scrap the old way of doing things? It hasn't even hit the market yet, but people are like, well, not watching those tutorials, not learning that step. So does
Yeah.
it change
It's
everything?
kind of like, I mean, your base is still going to be with Unreal Engine. So I know a lot of people, like my phone was blowing up that day that they made the announcement, and I had a, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of weird because a lot of motion graphics artists, of course, they were jumping in like, yeah, this changes everything, real time's the future, we could just, go nuts in there, and I'm not even going to bother with Unreal 4. I'm just going to wait till 5 comes out. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, why would you do that? I'm like, the people that are learning Unreal right now are going to be 10 steps ahead of you whenever 5 comes out, because you're just going to be fresh going into it, and the foundation is going to be there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they're just completely redoing everything from scratch. It's going to be similar from Unreal 3 to Unreal 4. People
Mm-hmm.
that knew Unreal 3 still had an advantage over the people just trying to jump into it, because they're just constantly building on their tools. All it is, it's kind of like a video game. It's like the sequel is still the base, and it's just a new adventure moving forward. And so it's the same thing that was happening with VR. Like, I was in it real early. A lot of people are like, oh, it's not where I want it to be yet, I'm just going to wait for it to get to X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, why would you do that? I'm like, you learn the roadblocks now,
Mm-hmm.
so that it is the premier object that everybody thinks it's going to be. You're already going to have your name solidified in there. You're going to be a go-to person. People know who you are, and you understand the technology more than anybody that's just jumping in. And so it's the same thing with Unreal 5. I wish people would just stop being like, yo, I'm just going to wait till next year. Because honestly, it's not coming out until fall 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if, I think if the COVID thing doesn't kind of pan itself out,
Right.
it could be longer. And so I'm like, work with the tools you have now, get familiar with the tools you have now, and then it makes it that much easier whenever the tools get better down the line. Because then it's like, oh yeah, like you're saying with the poly count, now I don't have to worry about taking my geometry and lowering the poly count just to get it to run at a certain level and things like that. It's like the stuff that used to be nuances is just going to be better in the future, but you still have that foundation, so you know how everything operates.
Mm. I love that answer. I love that answer. I think that's building on fundamentals, man. I think you have to build on the fundamentals. I think that's crucial, and that's a good way to stay updated on things. You know what I mean? If you learn the 4,
Yeah,
then like you say, you're learning the 5 is a sweet transition. So definitely, that's
yeah.
definitely.
It's not it's not going to be a magic tool like everybody thinks it's going to be. You're still going to have to put work into it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
That definitely makes sense. That was my excuse. I was using that for a good while. I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead
Yeah.
and wait to Unreal. This comes out. But you're right. If you jump on it now, you learn the fundamentals, and when the next one comes out, your transition should be first. And everybody wants to be first in technology because you can demonstrate that to your employer or to wherever your demographic or your audience is. Look, I'm first on the tools and whatnot. So let me ask you a couple
Yeah.
questions. Do you watch anime?
All the time, every
Okay,
day.
okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? What's your okay? What's your I would say what's your top 3 anime that comes to mind?
It switches every interview I do.
Okay,
um, so yeah, My Hero Academia is
classic.
top for sure. Love that one. I feel like it's this generation's Dragon Ball Z. Like,
Ooh.
I grew up on Dragon Ball, but I feel like My Hero is kind of like this generation's Dragon Ball. Like, I see the similarities between Deku and Gohan, or not Gohan, Goku.
Mm.
And so you just have the similarities there. I'm really digging the new style and the new twist they're putting on it. So My Hero definitely. And then trying to think, what was I watching this morning? Sword Art Online. The new
Oh,
season just came out.
okay.
So that one's a good one. Probably not my top one, but it's one that I'm watching right now.
Right.
But Black Clover, love that one.
All
Don't know if
right.
you've seen that one.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm
yeah.
I got double subscriptions sometimes. But I yeah, Black Clover. I'm on that one.
And then
I mean, you got to get every once in a while. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Baki, definitely on
Baki.
Netflix. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know if
yeah.
you,
That fighting
yeah,
one,
Baki's,
delicious,
yeah, yeah. And
delicious.
they have Muhammad Ali Jr. in
Oh
there,
yeah,
which is crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so yeah, I love that one. But
That's a classic one. I mean, I
yeah, which ones are you into?
shoot. I mean, I always like the new ones. You know, you got Attack on Titans. I'm waiting on that season to come back out. I'm like, come on, man.
Oh yeah,
Come on.
they take too long. It's
Oh
like
my
a couple of
goodness.
episodes, then you wait like another year.
Oh my goodness. I'm waiting for that to come back out. Promise Neverland. People are sleeping on Promise Neverland. It's not giving the respect it deserves. But I think Promise Neverland is a. To me, it's like this, right? We get into an anime discussion, but to me, it's like this. You have fighting animes. I mean, there's so many different classifications of animes, but you have, to me, it's like in America, it breaks down to, fighting animes, and there's like a cinema anime out there, right? And
Yeah,
so I feel like Attack on Titans is more story based. They have the action sequences, but I think they can survive on just story alone. Which, while
right.
with My Hero Academia, I feel like everything builds up to a fight. You know what I mean? It builds up to it, kind of like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I say
But
that's why I think it's like Dragon Ball. Yeah,
yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh wow, that's factual. That's definitely factual. But I always go back to the classics, Akira. To me, the beauty of Akira and just the style of it. I know it took a lot of animation to put those together, but it's just beautiful. And you know what? I got into manga lately. I know that's a big leap, in America,
yeah.
but I couldn't wait. Couldn't wait on anime, so jumped to the manga tab. So,
I'm looking it up right now. There's actually a studio that I was just put onto the other day
mm-hmm.
on Twitter. Let me see. It's the
Diastajo?
first, yeah, yeah, the first black
Yeah.
anime studio in Japan.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
just found out about them. I didn't realize this even existed.
I mean, what they're doing is pretty dope. They just did the weekend video. I mean,
Yeah,
I had an opportunity to talk with one of the, I think, the CEO there, just a small conversation, but I mean, he was approachable. He's such a nice dude. And then him and I think, I don't want to say his name, but him and his partner there, they're making something really cool of it. My thing is the interesting take on. I know they haven't had the opportunity yet to make their own anime, to just like to look. This is our story. This is everything from us. But I would love to see their approach to an anime. When they're released, like when they can just do whatever they want to do, American, Japanese fusion. They can just. I know that they do traditional Japanese anime. I mean, they're so talented they can do anything you throw at them. But I would love to
right.
see them get the opportunity to do a movie or to do a series, just with them just putting their brains together. Would be
Yeah,
nice.
I can see somebody like Netflix definitely picking somebody up like that. I
Yeah,
mean, they have an interesting twist on the whole genre, and I know Netflix has been. It seems like they've been investing a lot in their anime platforms there, so I could
yeah,
definitely see them. If they approach Netflix, I bet you whatever they went with them with, Netflix would probably just throw money at them. Like, go ahead, go crazy with it. So,
definitely. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to get him on the channel as well, and we might just do a three-way conversation if I can make that happen. But
yeah,
definitely. So let me ask you: are you a gamer? Do you game?
yeah. Ever since I was 5 years old.
Come on, let's talk about it. So what's your
Yeah.
go-to game? If you had to say, look, somebody's coming to your spot, your location, your crib. I don't know what terminology you want to use, but they coming to your spot and you're like, they're talking trash and you're like, look, I'm gonna play you one on one, and you had to bring out one game that you can dominate in. What is your go-to game?
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Okay, you
The
bring
old
out the
school one on
classic.
Dreamcast. Yeah, yeah. The Dreamcast version. Like I don't know if you can see, I have my arcade, the hand built one
I,
back here behind me. I
yeah,
have I built that for all the brawlers and all the 2D fighters, your Marvel vs.
mm-hmm.
Capcoms, your Dark Stalkers, things of that nature. But yeah, all those Capcom classics, I'm definitely a beast at. But
Mm,
if I had to pick my top game right now, I'm playing through the Yakuza series because it just
mm.
came to the Xbox. So I'm on Yakuza 2, I want to say. But yeah, that's my go-to game right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me ask you this: have you, in tying it back to the industry and tying it back to film, if you had the opportunity, I know you have the opportunity, but if you choosing right now, would you choose to work on a film project or a video game project, and why?
Definitely video game because it's in my blood. Like you said, I had a few opportunities to work on some games. I worked on when I worked at Warner Brothers, I actually had the opportunity to work on some of the WB game platforms
Mm,
or properties. So I worked on Mortal Kombat 10, I want to
mm,
say, MK10, Lego Batman, Lego Harry Potter, and there's one other one I can't think of, but yeah, I definitely like I love gaming. I was talking to some of the guys over at Epic. Like I'm doing some work with them that's going to be coming out on my channel. Like I'm going to be taking an Unreal logo and animating that, and then doing tutorials on how to animate that in different genres.
mm.
And I'm hoping that I could use that as a leapfrog to try to get into some of their contacts in the gaming industry.
Right.
Because I would love to like be able to animate like the Ubisoft logo at the top. You know, when you put in the game, you have
Right.
the Ubisoft logo
That
or
would be
like the
nice.
EA logo. Like I love those logo animations. Like even on my channel, I kind of went back and rebuilt some of the logo animations for Apex Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they have like the EA logo come in and then the Respawn Studio logo come in, I went back, digested it, recreated it, like just put my twist on how I would have did it,
Mm.
because that's the type of stuff that I really love to get
Wow.
into. And then if there's any in game stuff, I definitely would love to be a part of that. So yeah, I would say video games through and through.
Mm.
Unless it's Spider Verse 2, definitely want to work on that one.
Oh,
So
I think a lot of artists want to go in that spy version. I think to me I've seen what a couple of, I can't remember the game right now, but there's a game, I think League of Legends. I've not, don't quote me, but I think League of Legends doing some crazy cinematics
yeah,
that resembles a lot of things that the Spider Verse was doing. But I feel like I feel like I don't know who's doing the animation. I don't know if that's in house with League of Legends, but their animation is ridiculous. They're just seem like they jump different styles from 2D to 3D. It is super awesome. But yeah, I think a lot of
yeah.
artists want to jump on that Spider Verse. I think they did a hell of a job over there. Hell of a job. Shout out to the three directors who did that.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the first one. My daughter and I just went to go to the movies, and there
Mhm.
was nothing else playing. And she was like, "Why don't we see Spider Man?" I was like, "All right, fine." Like I knew nothing about it going
Wow.
in, and then once the first scene came out, and they were playing Biggie in the background, and he's just you know, he's just running through New York, tagging stuff up. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I'm like, what Spider-Man is this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't realize what it was until we got into it, and then just the way they were mixing and you know, all the different frame rates and all the different animation styles. I
Mm.
was just like really engaged, and I was like, why in the heck didn't I know about this earlier? I would have
Wow.
definitely made a big push to try to jump on something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk. You said you was born in Pittsburgh, if I memory serves me correct, and you live in
Yep.
LA now.
Yeah.
Did you make that transition because your industry, or was it something you family, or why did you make the pitch from Pittsburgh to LA?
Um, like, cause I went okay. Originally, I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh for
Mm-hmm.
motion graphics and visual effects. So once I graduated, like it seemed like the main two areas, like remember this is back in '06,
Mm-hmm.
so you're either working in New York or LA. And I used to do music back then, so I used to frequent New York a lot, and I just didn't really vibe with, like, I'm claustrophobic, so like that city just, it
Yeah.
takes a lot out of me, like a
Yeah.
lot of energy out of me just navigating through there. So
Right.
I'd never been out west before, and like I was just mailing my demo reel to like all the studios that I could find on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did get a job offer from a studio to come in as a junior artist. They called me up. They're like, they got my package. Can I start, you know, in like a week? And so I was like, yeah, sure. You know, took the junior position, packed my car up, drove all the way out to California.
Wow.
The day I was supposed to start, long story short, the studio no longer existed. They went under on that weekend.
Oh.
So I was out in California, like with, you know, with nothing. I knew nobody out here. I knew nothing about the culture, just, you know, just stranded. And so I tried to make it work out here. Couldn't get anything going. So I packed my car back up maybe after like a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then drove back to Pittsburgh and just stayed on the grind, you know, didn't
Right.
get defeated. My
Right.
old job took me back. You know, I told them the situation. They let me start working there again. And the whole time I'm just updating my demo reel, remailing it out to everybody that I can.
Right.
And then it just so happens that one of the assistants at Happy Madison, well, at the time it was Framework, which was like under the Happy Madison umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the assistants there was from Pittsburgh. And so she opened up my package because I had a Pittsburgh address on it,
Right.
and she saw the demo reel in there. And so she played it. and I guess they liked it because she gave me a call. She was like, "Hey, this is fun. We really like your stuff over here. If you're ever in town, look us up. We'd love just to chat with you and get to know you a little bit better." So I was like, "Shoot, I'll fly out overnight. I could be there tomorrow."
Oh,
And I don't think they didn't believe me because they're like, "You're still in Pittsburgh, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah. If you're just ever in town, just look us up." So at that time, I just got my income tax check,
oh,
took the entire check,
wow,
bought a red eye flight
wow.
overnight from Pittsburgh to California one way. Just flew out there just on a chance. Took the only suit that I owned. It's like took the only suit that I owned. Just was at the doorstep that morning. With a
Wow.
suit on. They came in. Like I made sure I was there like 8 o'clock. I wanted to be there before the studios even open,
Mm.
and I'm just there out front. And then I just keep asking people as they get through. I'm like, "Are you fine? Are you fine? You fine?" Until finally, she's like, "Jonathan." I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Okay, come on in. We want to talk to you." So I went in. They were impressed that I just like came out there, and they gave me an opportunity to intern there just on the whim of me
Wow.
taking that chance of going out there. And then that's how I pretty much got my start out here in California.
Wow. So that first time going out, that didn't burn you at all. You the first time and you jump back out the second time. See, that's perseverance. You gotta keep doing. You gotta stay at it. Cause I don't know. Let it be me. The first time I went out there and the studio shut down, I would have been a little more hesitant than you going out next. But it worked out. That's what you should do.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I didn't cry the whole way home.
There you
But
go.
like it's crazy because my now wife, like I had my son early. He's the
Uh-huh.
whole reason I started pursuing just a
Mm-hmm.
career in general. But like I had my son at 20 years old,
Mm.
so my wife, she put a lot of faith in me. And it's funny because like I was going to come out here, make it happen, and then fly them back out. Is so I didn't even tell her what was going on at the time. Like she
Mm-hmm.
was at back in Pittsburgh living with my parents, and like I was so distraught that like my way back home from LA to Pittsburgh, I didn't even stop. Like I drove the whole 36 hours all the way through. That's just like how
Mm-hmm.
disappointed I was in
Oh.
this. So it's like I came back to Pittsburgh that morning, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to my wife's work, just show up, tell her what happened. So she's at work. She's working at Subway at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I just show up, and she's like, "Holy crap, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I left LA yesterday. I just drove all the way straight through and haven't slept or nothing." And yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, there's not a lot going on in Pittsburgh,
Mm.
so
Had
I
to
was
make the
definitely
move.
determined to get out of there.
I definitely go where the opportunity is. You can't.
Yeah,
Sometimes all the will and all the gusto you can muster, it's just the opportunity's not there. So you have to go where the opportunity is. But that's a crazy story. Wow, that's huge, man. I think that's very inspirational for a lot of people who's listening. Like, look, at first, you didn't quit, and it wasn't like going across the street. You flew out there with not knowing anybody, any connections, with probably a handful of some cash in your pocket, and try to make it happen. But it works. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to go, extra mile. That's super
yeah,
awesome. That's super awesome. So let me ask you this: if you were in the market right now to develop a new software tool, right, or let's say a plugin, right? Pick your application of choice. What would be your pitch, or what would be your unless you're working on something? I don't want you to give out your business model, but what would
yeah,
be
yeah.
your plugin that you would develop? What would be your add-on? I would say to any software you want. Like, man, if this just had this, I think so many people would love it.
Yeah, right now, and actually I get a lot of questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pipeline between Unreal and After Effects at all. Like,
Mm.
in Cinema 4D, you export out your AEC file,
Right.
and that way you have like all your null keyframes and your camera information. So it's an easy transition to be able to bring stuff, once you're in After Effects, you could bring stuff in like, your text tools and have it be within your 3D space.
Mm.
But right now, it's I'm actually going to do a tutorial on it, but it's a whole workaround. Like I have to make sure my keyframes in Cinema match in
Mm.
Unreal, because then I have to take my keyframes from Cinema into After Effects. But if there was a plugin that would let me live link it between Unreal and After Effects, that would be like a huge saver there. So
Mm.
that's I don't program, so it's not something that I could come up with, but it's definitely been something that I've even talked to the Epic team about, like, hey, we might need to
A nice little
put something together, especially if you want to get into they want to get into film and television really bad. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be one of those tools that are going to be essential, whether they do it or whether somebody else comes out with it. But
That's true.
if you
That's
know any
true.
programmers, let me know because it's definitely something that
I'm
I
I'm
think we could put out there.
I'm sure if Winbush needs a program, we can make that happen. That's not too complicated. But yeah, man. I'm gonna wrap it up, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you, dropping insight and information and telling your personal stories, man. I definitely appreciate that. Keeping it 100 with us on the show. So, I mean, can we? My last question. Could we get a signature Winbush? What up? What up? Can we get one of those on the show? I mean, is that branded? I don't want to break any legal rules. Can we get one of those?
Yeah, I actually need to start. I keep telling my wife, I'm like, I need to make T-shirts.
I
I keep sleeping on it, but
I gotta get a T-shirt.
yeah, but what up, what up? Winbush here, and I'm excited to be on this interview. Thank you guys again for having me out, just listening and vibing with us, and let me tell the story. And definitely check out for part two because I'm definitely going to be back, especially once we start talking into anime. I can talk about that all day. So anime and video games, yeah,
All right, we'll make that
all
happen.
day here.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody chiming in. I apologize for the audio issues, but this is episode 1. Me and Winbush, we worked it out. Episode 2 is gonna be coming shortly. We're gonna be doing more episodes. We're gonna do it 3 times a week. We're gonna do an anime
Oh wow.
episode. It's gonna be a lot more content. I'm gonna try to bring Winbush on as much as I can. He probably gonna start blocking my phone calls after a while, but we're gonna make it happen though. So I definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in, and y'all have a good day.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.